Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. This is Mr. Aaron Stanberry coming at you from Gulf Coast Christian Connection. That's right, Gulf Coast Christian Connection here on Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I am the host of New Dawn Community Network here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where we are going to bring you some of the best in gospel music and entertainment and just straight out talk about what's happening in the community. That's right, what's happening in the community. We're going to be bringing it to you. And before we get started, we just want you to know that you can contact us here at um, our website, msgccc.org. My email address is astan, msgccc.org. Excuse me, Aaron at msgccc.org. And my Facebook page is facebook.com, MSGCCC. And we're here to bring you the best in community relations and what's going on today. And today we have another one of our outstanding shows for you today. We're going to bring to you our young lady who's been with us on several other occasions and has brought about some good information concerning a father's fight. Now, what is a father's fight? A father's fight is those legal situations that fathers get into when they are separated from their kids for whatever reason there is, and they're trying to gain custody back with them again, and they are having a lot of difficulties. Well, our guest today, Miss Shaunita Bolden, is an advocate for those fathers, and she is very instrumental in the community over there in Biloxi, bringing all of that together. And how are you doing today, Miss Shanika?
Greetings, greetings. I am doing
Greetings. How are you doing? How are you
well,
doing?
wonderful,
Hey, tell us a
outstanding.
little. There's some for those of you who don't know how to get in contact with her or where she's located at. I thought I would bring up her linking page there um, to see to hang on a second to let everybody know who you are and what you're doing here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast concerning a father's fight. And as we continue on, we will let you have say. Tell me what you tell me right now. Just tell me right now. What is a father's fight in your terms?
Okay, so in my terms, a father's fight is an advocacy movement empowering our fathers to fight for their rights for their children, equipping them and sharing information and knowledge that they might not have in the process of being able to reconnect and get back in their rightful place with their children. Plain and
Go-
simple.
Plain and simple. That's what we want. We want plain and simple. And we're just continuing on in that and showing everyone what's going on in a father's fight. Now, before we move on, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about father's fight while I do some background stuff here, okay?
All right. So here's the deal. A Father's Fight was established February 2nd, 2019. Of course, sometimes when bad things happen, it can bring upon something wonderful. Sometimes we look at bad situations and scenarios and think, oh my God, this is horrible. You think you're never going to recover, not sure how this stuff is going to play out, when bad things happen. But what we chose to do in our bad scenario was bring forth something positive and impactful for our fathers and our men in the communities to give them hope, to lighten some of the load and the burden of being away from their children and fighting to get back into their lives with their children. Sometimes we know that it's not always a court system or a lawyer or a judge, or so some of those will say hierarchy empowered people that make decisions about what we can and cannot do sometimes in our life. Sometimes it starts right with that baby mother, where you will meet the most resistance, which then leads into having to integrate and bring into the courts, the lawyers, the child protective services, the judges. Sometimes that's where it begins. And most of the time, I'll say most of the time, that's where it begins. So, what we found in our personal journey scenario, that this actually crosses all color lines, all I mean, it doesn't matter if you're black, you're white, this is just a big, large issue for fathers, period. So we wanted to be able to get into this community and bridge that gap and figure out things that we can do to better set our men up for success, our fathers for success, because us as children, we need them. And that is a little bit more about a father's fight and what we're out here doing. And it's been a blessing and it's working.
Well, you're doing a lot of very inspirational work there in the community concerning the father's fight. You got a guest with you, right?
I sure do.
And who
It's
might
about
that
to go
be?
down. It's about to go down.
It's about to go down?
It's about to go
Well,
down.
let's
Look,
see who that guest is. I think his name is Marcus Williams. Is that him there?
absolutely.
You need to adjust yourself a little bit so we can get in that thing there, but everything seemed to be all right. How you doing today, Marcus?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing blessed, blessed. I'm blessed, blessed. Well, y'all talk to
Okay.
me. Tell me something. I'm just producing here. I'm just a man in the middle. That's all I am. Y'all gonna
All
have to
right,
tell
so
me
I'm
something.
gonna go ahead and start first. I'm gonna tell you about this wonderful guest we have with us this afternoon, Mr. Marcus Williams, and the crowd goes wild. So here's the deal, right? My federal government job brought me to this wonderful place called Biloxi, Mississippi, and my church connection connected me with this wonderful man, Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams have a drive and a passion and a desire to help men in our communities from, we'll say, teenage years up into adulthood years. And what his organization doing, and I'm gonna let him talk about his organization, kind of mirrors, is kind of the same environment that AF is in, and the connection that we have is going to be the connection that's going to take over the world. Marcus, you're up.
Wow. Now, can't top that introduction. Like she was saying, my name is Marcus Williams. The organization that I am the co founder of is called Calling Men Back. Calling Men Back is designed to teach young men of who they are in their neighborhoods, their communities, and in their family. I met Miss Bolden, like she said, at Church Connection, and she talked to me about a father's fight, and it kind of blew me away because calling men back, our motto is, like I said, we're trying to teach men who they are in their communities, in their neighborhoods, and in their families, and she's fighting for men to keep their rights to be dads, to be fathers, and I thought that was a unique combination, and we just hit it off. Both families like each other, and both missions were very positive and headed in the same direction. And I felt there would be a great connection. So that's how we became a family, a fathers fighting, calling men back.
Absolutely.
Oh, we shifting everywhere.
Do I need to get involved in this? Because y'all
Oh
need to
no, you got.
talk.
Oh, look.
Y'all need to
So here's the
talk.
deal.
If you up
All
and you
right. So
see yourself, you
I
talk.
just
Oh,
want to
okay,
make sure we
okay.
was ready. All right. So here is why I wanted to bring Marcus on for this episode this afternoon. It's because not too long ago, Marcus had posted a personal story about him and his father and the relationship growing up, how maybe growing up as a child he viewed the relationship, but going into adulthood, it I say the light, that awakening moment happened for him where he realized the decision that maybe his father made was probably the best decision. So it was very touching for one, very touching. I ain't even gonna say nothing but some tears were shed.
Yeah, it was tears shed when I told my truth.
Right. I don't want to put nobody out there, but this
Hey, hey.
since it was all over. So I listened to that and then I start thinking about a father's fight, right? We have children that are, we'll say, products of maybe fathers not being in the home for whatever their reasons are.
Right.
We have children that grow into grown men that maybe have emotions and stuff that they might not have dealt with, or have this awakening moment, that it's very important that these stories get out. So I wanted to bring Marcus on just to kind of share a little bit of that, and him being first a child that had a father that might have been absent for whatever reason, and now a father himself that have children. How did that impact him?
Okay. First of all, let me say it like this. In my situation, having the mother that I have, my mom's mindset was whatever situation her and my dad had nothing to do with me. And she practiced one thing. She never told me anything negative about my dad. Her mindset was simple. She know my dad in one light, and she would give me the opportunity to grow up and understand who he is and understand everything about him and form my own opinion. And doing that, my dad made a bunch of mistakes. I'm half 100 now, and I've only spent 5 days with my father. But at first, I didn't understand. I thought it was something I did. I'm like, why this dude don't like me? Why he don't want to be around me? And with that, and my mom would always say, you didn't do anything. It was his choice. So growing up, now I'm a father of three and I have three daughters. And I had to look back at how I raised my kids. I had to understand that I got to make sure that they see what they want in life. I got to make sure that the kind of man that they're looking for, they don't have to look out in the street for him. They can look at their dad and say, okay, this is the kind of man I want because my dad has done this, this, and this for us. In that, I had a moment to where I was home alone and I was just thinking about my dad. And it's like we had a conversation. And that's when I realized um, my dad made a decision based solely on him loving me. My dad loved me enough to know that he was not the best for me. My dad was a brilliant man, but he was a junkie at the same time. And, I always thought that he chose drugs over me. But like I said, I'm home alone and I'm sitting here and I'm having a conversation and it comes to me, and it's like I'm talking to my dad and he tells me he loved me enough to know that he didn't want me to see him do any kind of drugs or anything. So he chose to stay away from me. He chose to let my mom, hey, raise him, turn him into a man that we can both be proud of. And in making that sacrifice, I realized that my dad loved me. He loved me enough to walk away from me. And with that, that taught me that same love that my dad had to walk away from me was the same love that I have for my girls to let them know that, hey, I'll never walk away from you guys, you know. And like I say, I always give my mom a lot of credit because she could have played the game, you know, and she could have turned me against them and she could have did a lot of stuff. But my mom is old school. And when my mom and my dad were together, they loved each other, and whatever happened between them, nothing to do with me. So she never held me as a hostage or a pawn in this game. And both of them played chess. And it was like, hey, I'm not going to turn your son against you. And if your son does turn against you, it's because of what you've done. It's at your own hand. But in that, I grew a little bit and understood that, hey, my dad made the best choice for both of us.
So with that, sometimes we don't understand. And looking at it from your point of view and then looking at it from my point of view, I could say maybe that was because it kind of had the similar scenarios when it came to fathers, right? But I'm the female, well, not victim, but I'm the female person in this scenario, and my father wasn't really always there, and but I knew him, and he had his lifestyle, and possibly he decided to not really be around or involved in our lives for maybe the same reason that your father did. But it took me listening to you to even think like that, because all I ever thought about was your initial response to, oh, I'm not good enough. Maybe he don't like me. This, that, and the third. That's all I ever thought about. I never saw it another type of way. Maybe they're trying to protect, me from. Maybe he's trying to protect me from something. Don't want me to really know him in a certain type of way to, kind of sheer me from that kind of stuff. But I never looked at it that way. So I don't know if that's the right way still. But what you did was give me, I don't know, but what you did was give me another perspective, which is very important for us as adults that grew up like that and as children thinking like that. Maybe there could be something else. It could not necessarily be our fault. I spend a lot of time running behind my father. And he used to tell people that I was his mother because I was very fussy. But that was my way of pulling at him, pay attention to me. Here I'm here. I needed to know that I was special. I was a daddy's girl, but I never had an opportunity to be a daddy's girl. So what you're doing with your organization, trying to show boys at a young age that their place and this, that, and the third, maybe something can prevent that young man when he turns into a father, walking away might not be the option. He might have other options.
Shanika.
See, one,
Hello? Shanika.
Yes.
Hey,
Uh-huh.
have him hold that thought right there, and we're
Yeah.
going to take a break, and then he can come back and give you the answer that you want from what he just said. All right?
Absolutely. We'll be right
Okay.
back.
We'll be right
Mhm.
back.
You are holy, oh, so holy. You are holy, oh, so holy. Would you worship God with me? What a privilege and an honor to worship at your throne, to be called into your presence as your own. Yes, you are holy, yeah. Oh, so
Amen. That was Miss Lakeisha Cotton from Lakeisha Cotton Ministries. She was our MC at one of our events that we had here on the coast back in October. She's a local radio disc jockey and a minister and musical artist, and she also is the host of the Gulf Coast Gospel Music Awards here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and she is very, very inspirational in what she does here on the coast. And we thankful to be in her presence and thankful that she was able to MC that program for us and also delight us with some song. But we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to what we was talking about because I heard something in the background just a while ago when I was listening in on and they were talking a whole bunch of stuff. So what?
Behind the
Yeah, yeah,
scenes, behind
yeah.
the
y'all were
scenes.
talking a
We
whole
selling we
bunch of.
selling tickets for
We
behind the
want
scenes now.
we want to see what's happening on scene, not behind the scenes. So I'm gonna turn turn it back over to you two, so y'all can go ahead and do your thing, Miss Shanika Bolton and Marcus Williams.
All right. So yeah, okay. So a little bit behind the scenes. We were just talking about, Marcus had mentioned that we give as a society, we give a
Right.
lot of people breaks. We can get he mentioned some very popular ones too. He mentioned the Kales, R. Kelly that is. He
Yeah.
mentioned Bill Cosby, you know.
As people, people of color, we
Right.
we we come to our superstars rescue quickly
Yes.
at some of the craziest moments, and we can explain or try to explain why this happened, why that happened. But when it comes to the everyday father,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason we don't have that button to say,
That
hey,
grace.
yeah, to say, hey, he or she, well, he made some mistakes and now he's trying to fix them. And when it comes to kids,
Right.
and it's funny to hear somebody say he's a deadbeat dad. And to me, if you called me a deadbeat dad, was I a deadbeat dad when we were together? When we did whatever we did to make these kids, was I a deadbeat then? And people don't want to answer that question. It's well, whatever. Yeah, that's true. But the same grace we can give people that we've never met, people that don't know our name,
Mm-hmm.
people that would drive by and wouldn't even know to look to say hey to, we can give them grace and we can, well, see, they did that because of this. Understand when it comes to a dad and his kids, if that guy decides, hey, I want to be daddy, father, pops, I want to be all those, then let that man do what he's trying to do. And go ahead.
That is really the simple part about it. Um, this advocacy work is not for the fathers that blatantly said, I don't want nothing to do with the children. We're not talking about you being a woman and having to run somebody down to make them and shape them into being what they want. We talking about the ones that wholeheartedly, heart's desire, want to do the job that God has placed them with. We talking about these guys. And the point that you made about how you're right, these stars and people with money, they can do all kinds of stuff. Society gonna make all kinds of excuses for their bad behavior. But you let that father miss a child support check, maybe 2 or 3 times, we gonna go and lock him up. And he not gonna get, opportunities with the court system as your celebrities. And society definitely gonna throw them away. You're not gonna have anybody standing out there talking about something. No, give this man another shot. Again, you don't know what environment this man came out of. He could have came out of an environment like you and me, thinking that we're not liked, we're not loved, we weren't wanted, and that can mess with your mind as you get older. if you don't have enough of the your insights to pull yourself out of such places. You know, it can mess with you. You can turn into not being such a great parent, great father, because you don't know what one looks like.
True.
But we have no grace and mercy for those people, and that's what a father's fight is fighting to do, to say, hey, we got to put grace and mercy on folks, and calling men back. We got to get them right back where they were supposed to be in the first place.
See, off camera we were talking, and when we laughed about it, and I asked you a question. I said, throughout history, black men have been considered, you know, and let me not try to confine this just to
Right.
black men. We're talking about men in general,
Yeah.
but I happen to be a black man. So we're no good, we're this, we're that. And talking to you, I asked you a question. Normally, when you have a bunch of women together that's talking about their baby daddies, it's always he's no good. So I asked you, name somebody or tell me about somebody, a woman that's out there fighting, saying that this man needs to be with his child. Because as men, we're not used to having a bunch of women saying, hey, this man deserves to be with his child. He deserves to be the daddy, the father to help raise his child, even if they're not in the same household.
That's right.
So we're having to get used to something that's not a normal to us. You know, we talked earlier about your video on your way to work.
We're gonna look. We definitely need to come up and do a broadcast just on that topic alone.
When I was growing up, in my story, what I didn't share about my dad was initially I didn't know him.
Right.
The guy that I knew was great to me, but my mom felt obligated. I'm kind of pigging back off your video earlier. My mom was obligated for me to understand my bloodline.
Okay.
For me to understand the reason I think the way I think, the reason I look the way I look, the reason I compartmentalize things the way I do. And she had to really tell me what my true bloodline was. And she just basically sit down and talk to me. She was like, hey, this guy here is your stepdad. I'm like, I don't understand what you mean. And that's because I asked her the question, why my last name was one thing.
Right.
And their last name was something else. And she told me. She was like, this guy is your stepdad. And I tell you, when you get boats and money and all that kind of stuff for gifts as a child, hey, stepdaddy is daddy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Some money.
I mean, 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody know me, they know my mother. They can reach out to her. 4 years old. One of the gifts I received was a 19-foot boat. And I'm like, I'm rich, hey.
Right.
And my mom had to tell me, hold on, let me tell you who you really are. Well, at 5, I got to actually see my bloodline. That's when I met my dad. Hey, this is your dad, Samuel Morgan Williams. That's why your last name is Williams. I'm like, whoa, this scene don't look nothing like the other scene. But my mom life was, things happen, and she not with that guy anymore. And I'm sitting here like, okay, but in all that, I know who I am now.
And how important is that? Do you think that everybody should know who they are, where they
What
come
what
from?
what that did for me, it gave me a chance to ask the real questions. As a kid, kids are honest.
Right.
Kids,
By default.
yeah, why your last name one thing, your mama last name something else, you know, and why everybody light skinned and you dark, so my mom gave me a chance to be like, okay, let me arm you with the truth. Let me tell you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get these questions, you don't run from them. Hey, that's my stepdad. Now he might be the best thing that I know. That's still my stepdad, you know. And I got to ask the questions of, okay, tell me about my dad. And that's when I found out about my dad.
Right.
Yes, the things he did, good and bad. And then getting to see him and meet him. And, like I say, I spent 5 days actually in my dad's house. I spent 5 days with him. And I never saw him. I never saw him high, anything like that. But in those 5 days, I got a chance to see my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you, I'm like, hey man, I'm still here. What's why you not coming to get me? Why you not sending for me and all that? But now here I am 50 years old and I do things a certain way
Right.
and it brings back stories, hey, your dad was like this and your dad could do that.
Mm.
So my identity is in the blood. So I know who I am.
I tell you what, and that to me is the most powerful part about that video that you were speaking on, because that was the point I was trying to drive home. It is very important that we know, even if there is not a relationship that formed and developed the way that we think it should be, we need to know our information so we at least be able to stand against the questions, stand against this, that, and the third. I remember growing up in high school and middle school saying to myself, oh, I wish I had my dad's last name. Oh, I wish I had my dad's last name, because all my friends had their father's last name. Unknowns to me, the whole time I was born, I had my father's last name. Imagine that.
Oh, okay.
I've been a Harley the whole time. I don't know why. but all through middle school, I wanted my father's last name. So, and then not being, I used to grow up hearing about how, Shaunita, you're just like your father. You're just like Herbert. Oh my God, just like Herbert. But in my head, what is he like?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. So then when I got to sit down and, talk to him and really have that conversation with my father, then it all clicked. I'm 45. I had that conversation when I was 43. So then the questions be answered. Oh, why she's so aggressive? Oh, it's in the bloodline.
And do you know what's funny?
Mm-hmm.
We hear all the time, this is a small world.
Yes.
And I was older. I had just went into the military, and my mom is my best friend. I'm a mama's boy through
Boy.
and through. And I called her, and I was laughing, and she was like, "What's up?" I said, I'm stationed. I was stationed at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, and a guy was sent there, and his last name was Weathersby, and I was like, so I called my mom. I said, I met this dude. His last name is Weathersby. She said, well, talk to him. Come to find out, we're cousins. But it threw me. That conversation took me back to when I was younger because it made me think about something. When you lose your name, Okay, when you lose your name, it's not just the name you're losing. What you don't understand is we're in a small world.
Mm-hmm.
Now you run across this girl and she's everything,
Come on now.
but you done lost your last name,
Right, right.
and you run into this girl, and y'all get to laughing, talking, and ooh, she look good, and then when it's let me take you home to meet mama, and you know mothers, girl, where you from?
Right, right.
Who your folks?
Uh-huh.
Then you get that crazy look. Oh, you know y'all first cousins?
Yeah.
What you mean? My last name is this. No. See, your dad is. Wait a minute. Well, if I had dad's name from the beginning,
Yeah, man. We would have been able to identify that earlier, right?
this question could have been answered. Hey, where you
Oh,
from? I'm from. Oh, so you some kin to? Yep, I'm some kin to the Williams over here.
right,
Well, let me call. Oh, you know something? Hey, cuz, we cuz now.
right.
But when you take that away,
It's a lot that goes with it that
it's
you're
a lot
taking
that goes
away.
with it.
And that's my hope. So for us, like I said, we need to do a broadcast where we can just dig right on into that. But right now, for these two organizations, you got AF and you got CMB. What we want people to know is that you got some strong leaders in the making. And we want you
Absolutely.
guys to know that we're standing, regardless of the fact that I'm a female, I'm standing for our men because they're important to me. They're important, come to find out, with a father's fight to a whole lot of women because I have a whole lot of women back in my organization and pushing this thing. So just if nothing else to let you guys know that, yeah, there's some women out here on the front line for you guys because there would not be a child if there was not for a man. And for calling back, getting young guys and boys to know their rightful place and giving them that dignity and that strength, that because sometimes they don't get it in the household. So we need to be filling those gaps in our community and bringing people together like we should, all in the name of love.
Yeah. One thing they call it, man, is funny because, like I say, you and I both are. I'm trying to find the right word.
Say
We're,
it. Say it with
we
your
are.
chest, little homie.
All right, little homie. Both of us are crazy, and we outgoing and silly, and we're very passionate about what we do. And it to me, it makes me feel good to know that if I can catch a young man before he becomes a father and try to walk with him and help him understand, okay, this who you're supposed to be. This is what your role is in the neighborhood, in the house, even as a son to a mother, a brother to a sister. So if at some point when he becomes a father, he could come on board the father's fight, not because he's trying to get his child, but he can be that voice to say, hey, we need to understand what it is to be a man.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
with us together, with the two organizations working together, even those guys that we come across, it's like, hey, man, I got two kids over here. I'm trying to see them. That's when I say, I can help you with that too.
Mm-hmm.
If you trying to get to see your kids and you want to do your part, I'm gonna hook you up with a father's fight, while at the same time, CMB is going to help you work and focus on being the man you're supposed to be.
Because a lot of things that guys offer, one thing that you do in your organization is when you find job opportunities, you post them. And when I
Absolutely.
see you posted, I share with a father's fight. It's more is trying to fill every gap, whether it's an educational need, it's an employment need, it's just someone to talk to or get some advice from. All of those things we're trying to, bring something to be able to help and strengthen our community. So I am excited about having you on here this afternoon with me. We're going to definitely have to do this again and often.
All
I
right.
am super excited about what we have going on. And I appreciate Mr. Stanberry for allowing us
Yes,
to have
yes,
this
yes.
platform.
Yes, yes, yes. He is definitely the man. And I'm gonna make
Yes,
sure
we
that all of
appreciate
my people, my network, my Facebook family, everybody know about Mr. Stanberry.
it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, y'all were talking about the two organizations, but there's actually three because I'm a part of this too.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Just want to
That's
let you
right.
know. Just want to let you know. But yeah,
Mhm.
we,
Absolutely.
You know it.
Absolutely.
and the reason I'm jumping in here, that I know it
Uh-huh.
was good to you and everything, but we about 45 minutes into this.
All right, all right.
So we want to
We
close it
wrapping
on
it
out.
on up.
We want to close it
Mhm.
on out.
Absolutely.
So what we want to do is allow Shanika to give a word of inspiration, and then have Marcus give a word of information, word of inspiration, and then we'll just close this thing on out and lock it down to another time. Put this one in the can. How about that?
Absolutely. So look,
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Shanika.
for the for my Father's Fight community, here's what I want to tell you. In this time of COVID-19, and I had mentioned on my page that we do understand that, everybody kind of has to kind of come to a halt in what they're trying to get done. But use this time to just rethink some things, change some things, reflect on what you want to do, how you want to do it. Build yourself up so when COVID-19 is over and it's time to get back out there and get in the court dates that you're missing, your visitations that you're missing, and all this kind of stuff, that you have strengthened yourself to continue the fight. Don't let this pause time discourage you. Let it strengthen you. And that's what I want to leave you guys with.
Hey, I like that. So to my CMB family, um, here's what I want to say. I call it bad 19. I don't go through the coronavirus. I call
Right.
it bad 19. In this time of steadfast, I say to my CMB brothers, my AF community people, um, first and foremost, the easiest thing in the world you can do is be yourself.
That's right.
Once you understand who you are, once you understand how you operate, everything else falls in place. Take this time when you got time now to look in the mirror. Look in the mirror and ask that person, who am I? And once you understand who you are, when bad 19 is over, you move in who you are. That way, nobody can ever say you was this, or that. They can only say you're being yourself. Stay
Absolutely.
focused, stay prayed up, stay inside when you need to,
Mhm.
and let's do this again. This was fun.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're going to finish this thing on out there, and I'll just close it out with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you right now for giving us the opportunity to come together in this form and in this format, and to be able to inspire people who are out there who need a father's fight, who need to know about the things that are going on, called to, men called to action. Those type of things is that we need to know. And Lord, we just thank you right now for giving us the opportunity in order to be able to bring this to the world, that they may know that you are the one and only true living God. Okay, people.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Woo! And
Look
the
like a
crowd
wrap to
goes
me.
wow.
So so
All right.
we gonna close this thing out, and hey, everybody be everybody, and until we meet again, we just
and
Yes,
all
two and
be
sir.
two.
who we are.
All right.
All right.
because it's the highest praise. As I meditate, I sing hallelujah. I say, oh, oh, oh. I sing, oh, oh, As I meditate, I pray for my family. As I meditate, I pray for my friends. As I meditate, I pray for my neighbor. I say, oh, oh, oh. As I meditate, I thank the Lord because He's been so good to me. As I meditate, I say, thank you, Lord. I say, oh, oh.